Tucker Carlson releases J6 footage, and leftists in the media and in Congress melt down over it. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. The night before last, Tucker Carlson of Fox News released, as promised, some of the surveillance footage from the Capitol on January 6, 2021. That footage can only embarrass the current administration and its loyalists. It also raises questions about miscarriage of justice and the true role of the House Select Committee to investigate the, quote, attacks, unquote, on January 6. Before I dive into what Carlson revealed and how some people can't handle the truth, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I've chosen for today, which reads, "Do not bear false witness," which is exactly what the legacy media and the J6 committee have been doing all this time. Every one of them should suffer the same penalties they have visited upon others in the name of the Democratic Party and its agenda, as I intend to show. One more thing, if you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. And now, let's get into this. So why does Tucker Carlson have the J6 footage? Tucker Carlson has the J6 footage because Representative Kevin McCarthy of California, the Speaker of the House, granted him access. Why the Speaker granted him exclusive access and what Tucker Carlson planned to do with it was a subject of almost scathing speculation. Laura Loomer, for example, wanted to see a full release of all the footage to the public. One logical reason why no speaker would have wanted to do that involved a very real security concern. If that footage showed members of Congress escaping the fray, bad actors could learn the escape routes. They then might plan a real attack, not the false flag pseudo operation the J6 event turned out to be. And then the lives of actual members might have been lost instead of one unarmed civilian and, as alleged, 4 Capitol Police officers. But the Speaker actually addressed those concerns last week. He noted that his predecessor, Nancy Pelosi, might have already exposed some of those escape routes. Nevertheless, Tucker Carlson took time, 2 weeks in fact, to review the footage to make sure not to divulge any more escape routes or other sensitive information of that kind. As to Carlson having an exclusive, the Speaker said, and I quote, "People like exclusives, and Tucker is someone that's been asking for it, so I let him come in and see it. But everyone's going to get it." It almost seems like the press is jealous, you know? And that's interesting, because every person in the press works off exclusives on certain things. Unquote Speaker McCarthy. Now, he was not my first choice as Speaker. I think Bob Good of my own Commonwealth of Virginia should have that honor. But I give him credit where credit is due. More important than how Tucker Carlson scored his exclusive is what it so far reveals. Laura Loomer does repeat that the footage reveals nothing we didn't already know. She said that twice on Twitter, and I have links in the description to both her tweets. I won't repeat right now what she said we already knew. You'll have to wait for me to get to those revelations. Right now, I just want to say this. Laura, I love you dearly, and I want you to know that I have relied on your material for some of my recent podcasts. But out of that love, I have to observe reasonable suspicion or even the logical deduction you and others, including me, have made does not necessarily equate to direct knowledge from observation or recording. I'm afraid I even have to say that about the testimony of witnesses because, as you and I both know, the other side can claim that any testimony, absent a recording, that contradicts their narrative is self-serving or even unsubstantiated hearsay. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sure we both know a few lawyers who would tell us the same thing. So long as that footage remained hidden, all the conservatives and some J6 defendants had were suspicions. Now we have proof that not only was this a false flag pseudo operation, but also that justice has already miscarried. Note that Loomer also observed that Tucker Carlson did not receive any access to facial recognition software. Now that is a valid and material point. One user speculated darkly on that point. Miss Angela Earl said, and I have a link in the description to her tweet, that McCarthy and company know the identities of certain agents of the FBI who were provoking things, and they wish to cover up for them. Nevertheless, the footage does establish four things, at least, that the American political left did not want established. First, the first Trump supporters to enter the Capitol were in fact peaceful. They were like tourists. And Jacob Chansley, the infamous QAnon shaman with the admittedly ridiculous costume and makeup, was under Capitol Police escort while he was in the building. I quote Tucker Carlson on this. Officers were seen showing Chansley around, even trying to open locked doors for him. At least 9 police officers were in close proximity to Chansley, but none of them slowed him down. Unquote Tucker Carlson. I have links in the description to tweets by 2 separate influencers, both of whom embedded the footage showing Chansley walking through as easy as you please and with Capitol Police as escorts, not as arresting officers. Judge it for yourselves. The New York Post has its own article saying the same things I'm telling you now. This year, a judge sentenced Chansley to 41 months in prison and then 36 months of supervised release, and all of it to atone an act of police entrapment. I do not say that lightly. Entrapment it was, and entrapment I'm going to call it. Next, we turn to Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick. Yes, that is his family's real surname. The Capitol Police must still list him as having died in the line of duty. Before this week, the narrative always had been that someone, presumably a Trump supporter, killed him with a blow from a blunt instrument, i.e., a fire extinguisher. So why was he walking around apparently healthy after that fatal blow was supposed to have landed? I have links in the description to 3 tweets on that point, which include embedded footage and a link to a story in the New York Post. I should point out that the New York Times first reported that fire extinguisher narrative. They later retracted it and said he died of a stroke the next day. Here's Tucker Carlson again. Quote, "They lied about the police officer they claimed to revere. If they were willing to do that, then their dishonesty knows no limits." Close quote. Sicknick's family, who are suing Trump and 2 other J6 participants, seem to stand by the original narrative. I have a link in the description to a tweet by Citizen Free Press containing a long, vituperative, frankly ugly statement from the family, which they embedded as the image of text. For reasons best known to Citizen Free Press, they didn't pay for Twitter Blue, which comes with the privilege of putting out long tweets that you can easily bring up and they would all be machine readable. Now, I am not going to get into the family statement. Some have expressed doubt that the Sicknick family actually wrote it, but they have brought no proof. So I'm going to assume that this family, distraught, upset, still grieving, and perhaps letting their grief cloud their judgment of facts and events, wrote that statement. Follow the link and read it for yourselves. But bear two things in mind. First, as I said, they are likely beside themselves with grief, which has clearly turned to rage. Second, they do have a financial interest. They have sued Mr. Deep Pockets, maybe because someone has sold them a bill of goods. Again, I am not a lawyer, but I will say that if their lawyers took their case on retainer, then they're swindlers. And if they took their case on contingency, they are maniacs. Either way, they are doing a monumental disservice to that family. And who advised them to say this toward the end? Leave us alone. I'm bowdlerizing here. And now, with apologies to Stanley Kubrick, I have to say, I'm sorry, good folks that I'm sure you are, but I'm afraid I can't do that. Not after you sued the former president and falsely accused his supporters of murder. Leave us alone would be appropriate if someone were stalking, harassing, or otherwise annoying you. Tucker Carlson isn't doing that. He didn't even mention you. I'm mentioning you because you put a statement out there that I have to answer. I'm going to come back later and tell you whom you should be suing instead. We turn now to Ray Epps. Now, I've talked about him before. I've talked about his provocatively urging people to go into the Capitol to shout out, "Fan, fan, fan!" I've also talked about Representative Adam Kinzinger, Rhino from Illinois, denying that he was ever in the Capitol and dismissing his provocative rant the night before as of no consequence. Last year, he dropped a long thread telling everybody that Ray Epps was innocent of any bad faith or nefarious deeds. I've left a link in the description to the Anchor tweet. Well, the Tucker Carlson release now shows something a lot different. Ray Epps said he was at his hotel when he texted his nephew that he had orchestrated what happened, and he said it under oath. The footage shows him on the scene, which means he perjured himself at the green table. I have a link to in the description to a tweet showing that footage. Last, the footage gives the lie to a story about Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri running from the scene. He was not running. Someone edited footage to show him running all alone. In fact, he was last of a large group of senators and representatives whom the Capitol Police were urging to make some haste. I have a link in the description to a tweet showing a composite video, including the raw footage, the edited footage, and then Representative Elaine Luria from Hampton Roads, Virginia, showing the doctored footage at a public hearing, provoking laughter. And all of that was a cynical lie. It might interest you to know that current Representative Jen Kiggins, a Republican, defeated Luria last midterms and now represents Hampton Roads, Virginia, and the Tidewater region. That's not all. The New York Post reports that the committee added a soundtrack with screams and shouts to the original footage to make it more dramatic. Surveillance footage is usually silent because surveillance cameras do not usually have microphones. So where did they get the soundtrack? John Travolta, call your copyright attorney. This is right out of his movie Blowout, only in reverse. John Travolta's character added improvised video to a sound recording. Those J6 people added sound to a silent video. Predictably, Democratic members of Congress and their media allies decry the release of the footage. Before I describe their reactions in detail, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of others who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy to your future. Now, the New York Post quotes Representative Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, as calling the release a security risk. But one reason she gave has nothing to do with J6 or the physical security of the Capitol. She said it was because Carlson was pro-Putin. Now, she could be alluding to Carlson's opposition to continued U.S. support for Ukraine in that conflict. But is she also suggesting that Carlson is assisting Trump in colluding with the Russians, going all the way back to the election of 2016? I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. Likewise, Whoopi Goldberg accused Tucker Carlson of behaving like the Ministry of Truth from George Orwell's 1984. Except, of course, that this footage is new and Carlson is exposing, not emulating, a Ministry of Truth. I have a link in the description to a tweet by Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA with embedded video of Goldberg making a fool of herself. Less explicable and inexcusable is for Senator Mitch McConnell, the rhino from Kentucky, to suggest that Tucker Carlson made a mistake and should not contradict the Capitol Police. I have a link in the description to Charlie Kirk's tweet with video of McConnell saying that, hey, minority leader, and that is your fault, as I've talked about before. Maybe you forgot that when a chief law enforcement officer lies, it is the right, it is the duty of those who can give him the lie to do so. Senator Tom Tillis, the rhino from North Carolina, seemed to accuse Carlson of lying. He spoke of the breach of barricades and assaults on Capitol Police officers. I have a link in the description to Charlie Kirk's tweet capturing him saying that. Senator Tillis, why didn't you say a word about the evidence already available that agents provocateurs removed the barricades? Charlie Kirk had you pegged, you and McConnell both. Welcome to the D.C. Unity Party, he said, and I agree. Don't contradict law enforcement, and who but a dictator assumes that if law enforcement speaks, it must be the truth? Why even have criminal trials? Why not have police tribunals? On that subject, Jacob Chansley clearly has suffered a miscarriage of justice. When those Capitol Police gave him a peaceful escort, they gave him permission. Period. End of affidavit. I have links in the description to 3 tweets in which Charlie Kirk gives his opinion. He points out that Jacob Chansley did no violence to anyone and has no prior arrests, nor did he force his way past anyone in uniform or otherwise obvious authority. He put on some of the worst makeup I've ever seen, even from my days in amateur or college theater, and wore an outfit that made him look goofy. So the media called him the QAnon shaman. Federal authorities took advantage of a man with clouded judgment and then withheld evidence that would have cleared up the matter in a day. More to the point, the United States government will withhold exculpatory evidence to put an innocent man in prison, but will not hold accountable those who burn buildings, loot stores, and otherwise strike terror into the hearts of law-abiding citizens. This QAnon shaman gets 3.5 years in prison after walking through the Capitol under police escort. Here Kirk mentions one other case by comparison, but in the interest of family friendship, I will not mention it here. Follow the link if you must, but I warn you, parental judgment and discretion are advised. Let me repeat, his attorneys have asked for this footage and a judge has denied them. That judge should face removal from the bench on impeachment for and conviction of skewing a trial to the prejudice of the defense. Furthermore, those who accuse Tucker Carlson of cherry-picking J6 footage are employing a Saul Alinsky rule for radicals. Charlie Kirk has something to say about that too, and I have that link also. The point is, this is brand new footage that no one has seen outside of the Capitol Police and the Speaker's office. It took a change of the speakership for us to get this much access. If anyone was picking cherries, it was Nancy Pelosi. Now, I had to give kudos to Elon Musk, who actually found half these tweets. Seriously, I looked on his profile in tweets and replies and found half this stuff that he had retweeted or to which he had replied. I won't repeat his replies here, but I will describe them. He has, in the last 24 hours, displayed more outrage than he has since he took over Twitter. For a first-generation American, that is powerful outrage indeed. YouTube influencer Benny Johnson has an hour-long treatment of Tucker Carlson's revelations, and I have a link in the description to that video. Tucker Carlson promised more revelations to come. Those we have already definitely prove not only that miscarriages of justice have resulted, but also, and worse, the J6 committee existed solely to propose bills of attainder and an ex post facto law against Donald Trump and all his voters. Now, I am in no position to demand. I can only recommend. So in the interest of justice, I respectfully recommend, first, that federal and other authorities now holding anyone in connection with the J6 event release all prisoners immediately. Jacob Chansley pleaded guilty under duress. Another judge should set that aside and dismiss all charges against him. A new set of judges should vacate all convictions thus far in this matter and summarily dismiss all remaining cases. Second, a judge should dismiss at once the case of estate of Brian Sicknick versus Trump et al. That family has sued the wrong individual. They should sue Nancy Pelosi in her capacity as Speaker of the House. She is responsible, and a judge should hold her accountable for every untoward event of that day. She actually declined extra security. The fix was in, and she put it in. Third, Ray Epps should stand trial for perjury, incitement to riot, and aiding and abetting entrapment. Fourth, the House of Representatives should expel any member of the J6 committee still in office. Furthermore, those members or former members should face indictment and civil trial for misprision of a felony and tampering with evidence. Fifth, Senators McConnell and Tillis, you both should resign immediately. Your states can hold special elections. You have brought disgrace upon the Senate Republican Conference and indeed on the Senate itself. Kentucky might present a problem. A Democrat now governs it. But no Democrat can be worse than McConnell has proved to be. If those things do not happen, then the not happening will stand as further embarrassment of the institutions involved. And more, to all you people continuing to support a demonstrably false narrative, I'm going to leave you with a certain precedent. The ones who set that precedent set it on July 14th, 1789. France, a place having a two-syllable name starting with a B. Look that up in any reputable search engine. Links in the description to the article, to Laura Loomer's observations, to Angela Earl's dark speculations on cover-ups, to tweets having revelations about Jacob Chansley, Brian Sicknick, Ray Epps, and Senator Hawley. A total of 7 tweets by Charlie Kirk showing reaction by media figures and 2 senators headers, and also his comments on the on the QAnon case, to Benny Johnson's video, to my Declarations for Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to ourcivilized.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to my J6 playlist, the Benny Johnson video, and maybe I'll just leave a link to my video about midterms breaking against a seawall, partly of Mitch McConnell's making. This is Terry A. Hurlbut, delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.